Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 39th edition of the BDE Sports Talk podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Bill, along with my bros and co-hosts, the pinnacles of the male species, the D and E of the BDE, Dean and Eddie. Fellas, welcome aboard another week of sports in the great state of Michigan. How are you guys doing?
Doing good at the pinnacle, though. I don't know.
I was going to say, man, I feel pretty pinnacled right now after that intro.
More like the base of the pyramid, you know?
I think this is like 20 weeks in a row where I've talked you guys up.
Oh, you look good too,
Thank you.
man. I
Yeah,
mean,
you look all right.
you looking
Yeah.
like you're here for sure.
Yeah, I'm here.
You look like you're right there
good.
in person.
I am doing a lot better this week. So, glad to be at 90% strength for the podcast. I can't say I'm 100, but so before we get into the flu, yeah, that was last week. Before we get into today's episode, want to throw out a thank you to everyone who's been with us since episode 1. A big shout out to Taylor Hanna, by the way. He's always sharing our episode posts. Like one of the only ones. Yeah. So I really do appreciate that.
Oh, for sure.
Puts that up for people to see. Also, if you are watching or listening, hit that subscribe button to know when all our episodes come out. And if you like today's episode or you are feeling generous, hit that like button so we can continue to grow the channel and keep bringing that fire content.
Yeah, baby. You want that fire Taylor Hanna content? This is the place to be.
So, speaking of things we like, I think I can speak for all three of us when I say we like Filipino food a lot. Oh, yes. And if you like Filipino food or just great food in general, then Adobo Boy in Kentwood will check that box off for you as well. Adobo Boy is the official sponsor of the BDE Sports Talk podcast, and boy, am I more than happy to talk about that. They like to make different dishes, so their menu rotates weekly, which means there's always reason to come back to try more delicious Filipino cuisines. But one dish you can always count on, which they do not have this week, is Red's Pork Adobo.
No.
Yeah. They switched it up so you could get something else in there. I'm sure it'll be back next week. But it is a iconic Filipino dish. Dean, you used to be called
tender pork.
Dean, you used to be called Adobo Boy back in the day. Tell us about that amazing dish.
I mean, it's fantastic. It has tender pork, braised in soy sauce and vinegar. It's on a bed of rice with cucumber and Jackie's achara or papaya salad on top. It's fantastic. I mean, you can't go wrong. I like to eat it separately. But you know, you can do it any way you want. I know Eddie is a mixer, right?
I am, man. It seems like it's almost worth getting two, honestly. Have one that you can eat separately and mix one together just to see what you like. I can't wait to have it. I'm super looking forward to that. I mean, truly, really looking forward to that. You guys know, whoever's watching might not. I live, hour and a half, 2 hours away from there. But incredibly excited to give it a go once I am.
Pretty close to me.
We've been I've been in talks with Ace at Adobo Boy about possibly doing a live episode from Adobo Boy.
There we go. I'm down.
And that was his idea. So
dang.
Yeah. So if you like adventure, like being adventurous with food, or just like some amazing food and vibes, stop in where this week, instead of the Red's Pork Adobo Bowl, they are featuring Auntie Stacy's Beef Caldereta, which is a stew with succulent beef, tender potatoes, carrots, and vibrant bell peppers that are simmered in a luscious creamy tomato sauce. That sounds pretty good. And Kuya Collins Chicken Adobo Bowl. So they went from pork to chicken this week. The chicken's braised in a savory blend of soy sauce, vinegar, and chocolate milk, coconut milk.
That's a switch.
This iconic dish showcased the rich culinary heritage of the country, served with quail eggs.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yep. The achara, which is the papaya salad, and cucumber slices, all resting on a bed of rice. So I might actually, I'm probably gonna go and check that out.
That sounds delicious.
Probably won't
Get
do
yourself a little quail egg.
Yeah.
Yeah, get
I mean,
egg.
Quail eggs are
Yeah.
nice, man. I've had pickled quail eggs. I've had regular quail eggs. I've had them seared. I've had them in a box. I've had them with a fox. No, but I've had pickled quail eggs and regular. And if you're an egg guy, I mean, they're good.
And they
So that sounds
season
really
well,
exciting.
too.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're still pulling out the adobo. There's a couple other dishes as well. So I'll stop in and see owners Ace, Jackie, and Red, who are some of the nicest people you will ever meet. When you go, if you mention the code BD Esports Talk Podcast, you get 5% off your total bill. Adobo Boy is open Tuesday to Friday, 11:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. for lunch, 5 to 7:30 for dinner, and on Saturday, the same schedule, except dinner is open till 8:30 p.m. Adobo Boy is located inside Amazing Myanmar at 3740 28th Street, Southeast, Kentwood, Michigan. Go get that 5% off BDE Sports Talk Podcast. Save you some money.
Definitely.
So now, in regards to new things to try, the Lions are trying something new. They released Tracy Walker III in what looks to be a salary cap move. Gives the Lions an extra $5.5 million, but it'll be just over $7 million in dead cap. The former third-round pick finishes with 398 tackles and 3 interceptions in 79 games for the Lions. Dean, what are your thoughts on Tracy Walker moving on?
I mean, it makes sense. They gave him that big contract, and then it's not that he's a bad player, but he's definitely just a really good depth piece on what they're trying to build. I mean, you have Kirby and Brian Branch both there looking to, you want to play those guys. They're young, you know what I mean? And it's sad to see him go because he's been there through, the tough times, and he got to see some of that light at the end of the tunnel, and he's not going to be able to finish it with them, but
He needs to finish his story.
Yeah, I was going to say finish his story. I was trying to avoid the wrestling reference. But it makes sense. He could go be a solid depth piece for somebody somewhere else. I mean, I could see them even maybe if he's willing to take less money, but it makes sense. He can't pay a guy, what was it, like $5.5, $6 million to be your second, third string safety. So it makes sense. It's sad to see him go, but it makes sense.
Agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, for what they got going on, it looks like we're going to have, before re-signings, a little over 50 million in space, cap space. I'm not sure what that looks like, after the re-signing. It looks like St. Brown might be getting up into the $22-25 million range, which that's a top 5 receiver pay. And I think we all agree, not only is he a top 5 receiver, he's also the heartbeat of that team. So that just is what it is. Goff obviously is going to be getting a pay raise. We'll see. I'm still hoping for a potential Danielle Hunter landing spot here. I mean, and another guy that I brought up before is being somewhat projected now to the Lions and Kendall Fuller. Projected or more like the best fit. I don't whatever those
spot.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that'd be huge. One thing I did want to bring up with you guys, and this is, is this a make or break off season for Brad Holmes? Wait. Hold on. As far as splashy free agent signings go, he's been pretty hit or miss on free agents. I mean, obviously Monty's worked out. Glasgow, you could say Sutton. Year before that in 22, it was that regime that gave Walker the new contract. Charles Harris. They did sign Anzalone that year. But that's my thing. I mean, he's an amazing draft GM, clearly. Clearly. No, there's no question. And he's earned all of our trust and respect. But so far, we're not getting the free agent signings that people would consider splashy. So is this the year for that? I mean, obviously I was joking about make or break. And he's our
Right.
guy for the foreseeable future as our GM. But should this be the year with the cap and everything else that they make a big play?
I would say so. I think now you could probably attribute the Charles Harris and the Tracy Walker extension to the rebuild because you had those guys there. It was a pretty, you could call it a stopgap, I guess you could say, lack of a better term. But I think now they're to a point where you know where free agents and other players in the league stand with the Lions, right? You hear it all the time with, well, I'd like to play for Dan. You know, Dan would be a great coach to play for. They're doing stuff over in Detroit. You know, you hear those things from where you hadn't heard that even in the second year with Campbell. That, you know, you heard, yeah, Campbell's a good guy to play with, but like no one wanted to really come to Detroit. You know, they were 1-6 up until up until they won 8 of the last 10. I think it was.
And the year before that, what, three wins?
3 and 13.
Four?
3, 13 and
I think
1.
it was 3 and 13. Oh yeah.
Something like that.
13 and 1, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think this is, I wouldn't, like you said, not a make or break.
It's make or break.
But it's definitely a year where I think if you're gonna get someone now, on the flip side of that, he's pretty smart with money, right? And evaluating talent in that regard too. Well, I guess we'll see, but I like you said, I trust him to make the right decision. So, but I do think this is the year to do it. Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I just, looking back, I feel let down by the trade deadline non-moves. And that really bit us in the butt in the NFC Championship game. Right? I mean, I think we can agree. We really needed an edge at that time. I know they were counting on James Houston, but it's okay to have more than two guys who are good at rushing the passer too, you know?
Right.
I don't know. I wanted to bring it up. He deserves all the praise, and I'm excited that he's going to be the guy in charge of getting players for the foreseeable future. Truly am. I wonder at what point do we see him make a move outside of a draft that cinches this thing together.
So I had actually heard of this is just like a trade idea type of thing that they could make a move for Patrick Surtain from the Broncos, with them going into pretty much rebuild mode with getting rid of Russ. And, I don't know, maybe they're not going into but this is just a trade idea. It wasn't a rumor or nothing like that. Mm-hmm. But they would have to give up this year's first round pick, the 29th, and next year's first round pick and a fourth round pick, because he's probably the best corner, one of the best corners in the league.
Well, he's young too.
And
it depends, right? Can you get Kendall Fuller
in free agency?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you could still scoop him up if you wanted.
You think both? I mean, that'd be elite,
I don't think
dude.
if he traded for Patrick Surtain, because I really think they're going to look for somebody in the draft, regardless of if they, you know what I mean. I think they want to look at Sutton as more of a depth piece now, because obviously he's not a number one corner. He's a good corner. Like, people gave him a lot of slack for how he's performed, but it's like, dude, he's not a guy that's going to man up all pro wide receivers and shut them down every play. Like, it's just not going to happen.
We saw it.
Yeah, and he's not fast enough. He's more of a zone corner anyway. So Yeah, I mean, I still, like I said, I still think they pick somebody up in the draft regardless if they make it like. But I'm just like when you were talking about big moves, would that be a splishy, splashy move enough for you, or would that be more like?
Splishy splash.
But it
That's
really
a
depends.
big splash. I mean,
Are
Certain
you
is.
win now mode, or do you
I
still
mean, I
like?
think you gotta be, because how tight is your window? You never really know. It's not
I
like
don't
we
know.
have Brady
Right. Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have that, you can kind of work around that window. I mean, Jared Goff, all due respect, he's not those guys, obviously, right? He just isn't. So I think you gotta make the moves while the window's open, and maybe that's just me worrying that it's gonna close. But I think those would be great moves. And the thing with Cam Sutton is, I mean, he was good in Pittsburgh. He played a lot more slot there too.
Mm.
So like, let's say we do both those moves that you're talking about. We get Surtain and sign Kendall Fuller. He plays slot, and Branch gets to go back to safety.
Purely playing
I
safety.
mean, now you're talking about something, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
you gotta. That's a good
but we
secondary
still need pressure.
for sure. Goes hand in hand.
Right. Well, and I personally, if it took a first this year, first next year, and a fourth, that doesn't bother me because this year's first is 28th.
Oh, dude, if
You,
you can get
you got to,
Surtain,
you figure next year it'll probably be, fingers crossed, in the late 20s
it'll be
again.
32nd.
32.
Yeah, 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 exactly. So when you look at it like that for an all pro cornerback, a potent, you know what I mean, a future all pro cornerback, um, that pretty much solidifies your secondary, like you said, Eddie. Um, and then you get Kendall Fuller. Jeez, Pete.
And that's not like
I
a
don't think you do
rumor on
both.
the trader
I don't
trade
think you
mill
do
or
either.
anything like that. It's just somebody was like, hey, if the Lions made this move, it would, it'd be a really good move for them. And I was like, oh, I'll bring it up during when we
Yeah.
talk
Oh
about
yeah.
Lions. So
I mean, I would love Sutton to be like the number 2
yeah,
Well,
on
yeah,
the team, and if he was slot, that'd even be more better. That would be better. But yeah, I mean, I don't see a world where we have Surtain and Fuller. Just one of those guys would be huge.
yeah, just getting one would be nice.
See where we go from there.
yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, no, I'd be down for those two firsts and a fourth. I don't I don't see that being too big of a problem.
Yeah, and with the way Holmes drafts, I mean, you hope that he can find somebody in those later rounds as well, if not trade back up in, you know what I mean, somehow.
True.
So do you think creating that cap space with Walker opens up a bigger chance at them trying to re-sign Jonah Jackson? Or would you rather see Brad maybe save that money, let Jackson go, and then go get a guard through the draft?
Well, I mean, we've kind of talked about it before. The problem is like I mean, if they were to re-sign Jonah Jackson, I wouldn't hate it because he's a really good offensive guard, depending on where he wants his value to be, where he projects himself. You know what I mean? But they, I mean, I think I've said it on here where they say that O line's the easiest position to draft in a general sense, and guards are probably the most replaceable on the team. On the offense, not on the team, but on the offensive line. So I don't know. I mean, you don't see a lot of teams re-signing their guards unless it's like Zach Martin. You know what I mean? Like a guy like that. But I mean, most of those guys usually end up going somewhere else and being good, like Laken Tomlinson or Damian Woody. Those guys. Like, I mean, obviously those are kind of old names, but those are bad examples. But I don't see them re-signing him. But it wouldn't surprise me if they did. Like I said, he's a good guard, and if you don't think there's anybody that could even potentially be where he's at in the draft or in free agency, then I mean, you almost have to.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's at the end of the day, it just comes down to what do you want? How much does he want? There's another guard that's as good, if not better, Zeidel.
Mm-hmm. Zeitler
Baltimore.
or Zeitler.
Yeah, something like that. Free agent. I mean, if one of those guys, either one wants to play for $5.5 million this next year, I mean, that's what you do. I mean, and then you draft a guy and let them develop. But I mean, if they took a guard and in the second round, even, you'd be like, okay, so this guy's probably going to be pretty good, right? I mean, you just assume. And I mean, it's not to be said. I mean, Jonah Jackson's been hurt a lot too, so you got to weigh that to his availability versus what he wants out on the market. So I like Jonah Jackson. Obviously, we all appreciate what he's done here. And it depends what he wants. If he wants too much, then go for it, man, and appreciate the work. I mean, really, really do. But it's got to make sense. We we probably
can get paid, but it's probably got to be somewhere else.
Last I read, they
Carolina might pay you.
Last I heard, or last that I had read, they weren't even close.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. Oh, jigs.
Well, so now that we've kind of talked about this before, and since we were talking about free agents, I believe during the season we had talked about it. But what are your thoughts on taking a flyer on Mike Evans now that it seems he'll become a free agent?
Well, I would say it again depends what he wants. Right. Last I'd heard, him and Tampa weren't that close either. So, an aging guy who dropped a ton of footballs last year, I'm not super into it. But if he comes at a good price, I mean, hell yeah. Because he's also can be a game breaker. So, it's to be an upgrade over Josh Reynolds in that type of position.
What's Josh going to do if we sign Mike Evans, though? Not drop the pass.
The Panthers
are available.
They're available. Oh man, yeah, I agree with you, Eddie. That it depends on what he wants. If he wants like a 1-year deal and they've got the extra cap for him, I mean, at the very least, what he does is just open up your other guys. I mean, gives St. Brown more opportunities. Williams will have more opportunities in those one-on-ones. I mean, and if not, Mike Evans will have the one-on-one opportunities. He's like 6'5", so it's like Goff can throw it up to him. I hope. You know what I mean? Like, give him something in the red zone. But,
that's one. That's one thing Goff showed this year is that he's throwing the deep ball. It's not like super accurate by any means, but that's not. I don't think that's.
When you're overthrowing Jameson Williams, you're not.
Why don't we just go all out and go sign T. Higgins?
He's probably
have $50 million wrapped up in 2 receivers.
Yeah, it's a good strat. Start questioning Brad.
I mean, dude, that'd be sweet though.
It'd be sweet for a year.
T. Higgins, St. Brown, Laporta.
No defense.
No D, but you know what? We're gonna score.
We're begging Tracy Walker to come back. Like, please, man. We're begging you. We need you to play DN. Can you do it, Tracy?
Yeah. Come on, Trace.
Wow.
Come on, baby.
Well, as we look forward to the Lions offseason, let's real quick talk about the Pistons. And Eddie, as we are now in the second half of this dismal season, what do you want to see out of them for the last 28 games?
I'd really like to see them put together another 8 wins. In general, could easily see them not doing that. I thought it was interesting. Washington only has 1 more win than the Pistons. So I'm wondering if we could have a showdown for the worst team in the league this year, because we do play them one more time in late March. So could it be for all the marbles? No. Who knows?
Pistons will still statistically get the worst pick they could get. So it's not gonna matter.
Yeah, still get 5th pick.
Yeah, it's 5th pick.
That's all I want to see. I just want to see them play decent, well-rounded basketball, defend. You know, it was rough. They had that West Coast trip, and maybe now they've had a little time because we don't have any All Stars. So maybe they had some time to practice together. I doubt it. You
We
know,
had
I
Rising
would say, oh, that's true. I would say that at some point there probably has to be the decision made with Ivy and Cade. I don't think they play very well together. I just keep seeing, I keep hoping, and I'm just not seeing it. Like when Cade's out, Ivy plays really well, and then when he's back, he doesn't. And I feel like something's gonna have to happen there. Who knows, man? The one thing I do want to ask you about basketball in general, or just sports in general, I guess, but the basketball game really brought it up is like, should there even really be an all-star game anymore? Uh, I mean, what's the point, dude? I mean, the
The game
NFL gave up
itself.
completely. They moved to flag. NBA, you could hardly consider that playing basketball. I mean, for real. NHL is pretty run of the mill.
They should just
MLB could
expand
be better.
the contests, like make it a
Yeah,
bigger
yeah, the skills
3-point
contest.
competition. You know, like more people in the 3-point competition.
I think
you know, whatever.
MLB should also move to not having to take a guy from every team. And I think the only way you make the players interested is to like put significant bonuses in there for winning, because they don't care. Otherwise, it's just a vacation. Or I mean, you said 200 points, man. Like,
someone said something. I can't remember who said it. They said they go, I don't want to be competitive. It's our break.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
really-
you know,
Used to be an honor, but
All right.
I think what would be kind of cool, I guess, is to like do all stars from each league, and they play in like skills competitions against the all stars from other leagues. Like that'd be kind of fun to watch. Like nothing physical, because it's not
Or
going to
do a
matter. They won't.
pros versus Joes.
you can do an NBA
Sure.
versus the WNBA.
Well, you know,
That'd be a good game.
In today's
Yeah.
game, probably. Everyone just shoots threes.
it's true.
That's true.
I don't know. I mean, it'd be cool. I mean,
But not everybody's 6'8" and 6'9". It's a 45-inch vert. That's all. Yeah, Wembayama is 7'5".
yeah, get
Dude's an animal.
Ionescu or whoever, get her
Yeah.
out there trying to do a windmill dunk.
She did play really well in the 3-point competition. She got second.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you stick Caitlin Clark out there.
Yeah.
Have you seen her shoot?
Dude,
Jeez,
she's
freaking
awesome.
beads, man.
She's bringing attention to women's
Insane.
basketball.
I mean, that's like saying, do you watch sports?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she's been a big deal for like a year and a half.
Well, I mean, let's face it. There's people that don't,
Yeah, you're not.
don't care.
Well, then they're just not into sports.
There was a commentator though, after Sabrina had gotten like 20, she tied Dame for second or first at the time before Steph ended up winning, and the commentator. I don't know if they like immediately like took him off the air because he was like. He was like, well, she should be using the regular ball because she was using a women's ball. And he was like, and she should have been shooting from the women's 3-point line and she would have won. Like, I don't know why. They were like, all right, well, Steph Curry.
They're going to say something different.
Ooh.
Like, oh, check out the balls on this one. And a commercial.
And the commercial. Yeah.
And Nick Castellanos hits one to deep left field. Oh man. So Dean, any thoughts on the Pistons?
Yeah, it's the same, man. I mean, if they can scrounge up a few wins and just try to, I mean, you got to try to build momentum or something towards next year. Oh my goodness. I mean, they got to do something. They got to do something. You know, I mean, if anything, like I said, depending on how many guys are still going to be on the team next year, which I doubt will be. I mean, obviously they have a young roster, but you know, that'll be a different team as it is every year. So, I mean, try to build some chemistry with the guys that are still going to be there. And like Eddie said, try to play some well rounded basketball if you can. And, just wait out the season. Hope we get a decent pick.
Thanks, Troy and Gores, for your huge plan.
Yeah.
Just totally
mean,
paying off now.
There's still 2 weeks ahead.
I want to see more Sasser these last 28 games.
Definitely.
I want to see, it kind of goes against what you said. Kind of want to see a development with Ivy and Cade, along with Duran and Fontecchio. I think Fontecchio could be a good piece if he sticks around. Seeing those guys together, I mean, it's 28 games left.
And I wouldn't say it's totally against. I haven't seen it. I would love it if they played awesome together and played off each other and stuff. They just haven't done it.
Right.
And we're going on almost the end of the second year here. Now, granted, Cade was hurt.
All of the first year.
Right.
And some of this year
and some of this year.
Some of his rookie year. And
I did see him get emotional finally. I don't know if you guys saw that or not. I was like, oh, he does have something in him. Because Cade is always just so, So, well, speaking of dismal seasons, the Wolverines lost to MSU last weekend in Ann Arbor for the first time since 2019. Sparty pushes forward trying to get a tourney bid. If you guys want, you can talk about the game. Michigan just is not good. If you want, but I'm more interested in your take of what the ramifications are after losing at home to Iowa.
I don't have a ton, so I'll go ahead. Yeah, I mean, like you said, that was a good win for them against Michigan. They needed every conference win that they can get right now, and they have 4 games left with Purdue, Ohio State, Indiana, and I think it's Northwestern. Obviously, Purdue's a tough one, but if they want to be a team that just gets into the tournament, I think they have to win all 4 of these, especially that Purdue game, because that looks good on the resume when you come down to wins for the year or whatever. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's conference play, man. There's not a lot you can do. Though sometimes you just get caught by those teams. So.
Yeah, I mean, that loss was. It's not that it's embarrassing because like Iowa's not bad,
right?
They're middle of the road, Big Ten team, but you lost that, and you got to collect those wins at home. Mm-hmm. I mean, Iowa's only got 1 less win in the Big Ten than we do, right? So it's not like anything crazy, but you got to win that game. Mm-hmm. It was hard to watch. They just couldn't convert within 2 feet of the basket, and it was just like, where is this, man? I mean, the Sissoko struggles so much offensively that you're like, man, now you're having to make decisions. It's rough. And when we got within 5 with like 2.5 minutes to go, Izzo completely switched the lineup. They were going pretty small, and then he just, I don't know, man. I'm not saying it's past him or whatever. It's just frustrating. It's like when Lalonde starts messing with lines, and you're like, come on, right, dude. Like, these guys were gelling. Whatever. I think if they get 2 more wins, they're definitely in. They got home games, like you said, OSU and Northwestern. Almost certainly losing to Purdue. Could win at Indiana. I mean, they should have won yesterday. So, I mean, who knows? It depends on the team that's showing up. Malik Hall had been having really big games recently, and that has kind of been the driving force for them. and he didn't have as big a night. I mean, him or Tyson Walker pretty much have to have a big game almost every time they win. And Akins has got to get more than a handful of 3-point shots, but whatever. We'll see. I think they're in as long as they split 2 of the last 4. Maybe they don't need to. Maybe they shouldn't get in. To just get that. I mean, they're not a team that looks like they're going to make a run. So, do a Michigan, play in the NIT for a little bit, see what happens.
They ain't going to the NIT.
You don't think they'll take the invitation?
They ain't getting in.
He's talking about Michigan State.
Oh.
Wait, whoa.
I was like,
no, Michigan's not going to make the NIT. They could make maybe the women's NIT.
The 3 or something. Yeah, Michigan just falls apart. They play well, and then they just fall apart.
It's bewildering.
But, and they even had their point guard at home. So
Michigan is a confusing team to see play basketball.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. In the second half, it never makes sense.
No.
You're like, oh,
Weird.
this is a decent basketball team. And then the second half starts, and like, oh, they really suck. Like, why? I don't know what happens at halftime. Does Juwan go around slap everybody?
I don't know.
It's like, you suck.
It's
you suck.
Crazy.
So what we used to do in the Fab Five. Fish used to walk around and slap us. 2024 kids aren't built that way.
No.
So, all right. Well, let's talk about a team that's clawing their way into a playoff spot. It's time for the Red Wings Weekly Update.
Woo!
The fellas went 2-1 since last week's recording. Lost to Vancouver, but finished strong with a dominant win in Calgary, 5-0, and an exciting win in Seattle. Which, fun side note, first ever win in Seattle, by the way, and only their second win against them. So they're 2-2 against Seattle.
Well, wait. What about when they beat the Supersonics in '97?
Let's talk about the Red Wings.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Yeah, Eddie, your thoughts on a good week for Detroit?
They needed that, man. A couple bounce back games, Flames and Kraken. Obviously, Lion was cooking, man, against the Kraken. I know I kind of jinxed him in that first period there.
You did.
I texted these guys as much, but he was making great saves. It was awesome to see. Kane obviously got his 800th assist, third most by an American-born player. I loved that Sprong got a goal there too because he came from Seattle, and he keeps looking better. Man, that signing keeps looking better. He seems on pace to pass his career high in points, which he set last year. He's at 35 right now, and he had 46 last year, I think. So he's looking set up to do that. So that's great for him. I'm just wondering if they're going to go out with the trade deadline coming up. Try and go out and get a top tier defenseman. Maybe a guy I think I talked about in the off season was Jakob. Maybe I want to say it right, Jakob Chicharun. But the Wings have kind of been not confirmed, but they've been locked into somebody who's interested in that guy, and so big home game against the Avalanche. Need another 2 points. See what happens, man.
Dean?
Yeah, I agree with you. I hope they make a move for a defenseman before the deadline as well. I wanted to, when I was watching them play the Kraken, I just noticed one thing with Seider. Obviously, he's still a young kid. I mean, he's really good, obviously. But Man,
Well, then
I
you
swear,
shut your mouth.
I swear that he gets so antsy to get to the puck. It makes it. I was watching him, and it felt like almost like when you were a kid and you were playing a video game with a hockey video game, and like you just don't care what player you are, you just go for the puck. That's just it felt like that, and then they turned around, and then it was a 1-on-2 against the Kraken because he was playing so far up, like he was going all the way up to the red line against the wall or whatever, against the backboard. And I was just like, man, he's playing so far up. Like, I get it. Like, I mean, they were being aggressive and they were, I think they were tied or maybe up one at that point. But it would be nice to get another defenseman just to kind of solidify that back end a little bit more. But yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
Who takes his seat?
Well,
If we get
I'll
another
tell you who
defenseman.
can take a seat. So I was going to say, I really think they need to get the goalie some help because Reimer's stopping 38 shots, while huge, will not happen every time. But like you guys said, I feel like they need to get someone on the back end before the deadline if they're being serious about competing in the playoffs. I know he scored the OT winner, but maybe move Sherratt. He hasn't been very good defensively, and he's supposed to be someone who's good defensively. The only other one I'd think would be Petrie. I don't think he's very good either. Ironically, they're both paired together, so it is what it is. I agree with Sider. The thing is, like Eddie talked about in the offseason, is needed more points from the back end, and Sider he's
getting those points.
An offensive defenseman, really. Someone who they're definitely not getting rid of anytime soon is Michael Rasmussen. They just signed a 4-year extension, $3.2 million a year. He the first round pick in 2017. He has 23 points this season and a plus minus rating of plus 11. I like it. He's impressed me. He plays hard. He's not afraid to get in there either. I don't know if you guys noticed that. Like it always seems like when people start pushing people around, he's in there.
He just gets in there and beats it up, dude.
He does. I'm looking forward to seeing him in more the next couple seasons. I wanted to bring this up. Eddie, what do you think they're going to need points wise to get in the playoffs?
95.
Okay. Dean?
Yeah, 95. That works.
Okay, well, Jimmy Howard seems to think that 95 points is too high. Okay. But that 92 is too low. So he says he thinks it'll be a happy medium, 93 or 94.
Oh.
I had to put that in there because
they could probably get in with a 94 also.
Probably. He's like 95 is too high. And he goes, 92 is a little too low. He goes, so a happy medium there. He's like, I don't know if you guys watch pregame at all, but he's like, he's just staring in the camera, those wide eyes. I appreciate him as a goalie, but man, hopefully he doesn't see this, which I highly doubt he will. I highly doubt he will, but if he needs to work on the whole TV presence thing, because it's like, dude, woof. Put Mickey Redmond. Talk about
when you need him,
talk about a guy who's the biggest homer in all the world. Is Mickey
Redmond.
Oh man, jeez, oh peace. You guys have anything else on them?
No, I did have a question though. What I know it deals with hockey, but how long have they been doing the 4v4 overtime? Has it always? It hasn't always
3.
been that way, right?
It is. It's 3, but since we were on the other team was on a power play, to start, they got the extra guy, and instead of taking a guy off, the wings just get to add a guy back in.
Right. Well, when did they start doing that? Wasn't it? Didn't it used to be like just like I knew it was a 5 minute period before, but was it 5-on-5 before? Like in I don't know, say like the early 2000s or 90s or.
I want to say yes.
Yeah,
I feel I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. I
Pretty
really
sure.
like it. I really like the more open ice. Obviously it's more offensive. I mean, obviously that was the idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I was just curious. I was just thinking about that. And
Yeah,
thinking how
because
much I enjoyed watching it.
once he comes out of the box and like Eddie says 4-on-4,
Right.
but then after the whistle it goes back to 3-on-3.
Gotcha.
So
But they did.
yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
I
More
like
fast
that.
pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost pretty much most of the time. It's like if you win the face-off, you have a pretty good chance of scoring.
Yeah.
I thought that shot that Sherratt shot. That shot that Sherratt shot was almost identical to the Sider one, except Sider was more towards the blue line.
Mm-hmm.
It was same side, same kind of shot from back way. I don't know.
Great pass by Larkin too.
Of course.
So
I know you hate on him, Bill, but Larkin's pretty good.
yeah, right. He's their points leader, I believe.
He is.
Kane's been about a point a game too. Which
Dude, Kane's moved up like halfway up the Red Wings points leaderboard in just the games he's been there.
well, yeah,
he's at like
freaking
20 something.
He's
already.
a freaking John Stockton of the Red Wings. Just dishing them to people.
Dishing pucks.
Where you at, Malone? Carl Malone just shows up in a Wings jersey.
Yeah, no, he's. And the funny thing about it is when I remember when he got signed, and you said if he can get him about a point a game, it'd be a great signing, and he has. He's been. I hope he stays. I don't know if he will, but man, it's been fun to watch him play. It's fun watching him on the power play.
It's cool getting to cheer for him.
Yeah.
Being that
and
good.
And he sets up like the way he can set up DeBrincat, and just, it's awesome to watch. So, yep. Well, like you said, big game against Colorado this week, and I don't remember who they play on Sunday. Saturday.
They play the Blues on Saturday.
So, big games.
I think that one's at home too, isn't it?
Yeah, and then I think they might be on the road again for one game. So, yep, good road trip out west. They kind of looked a little tired there, the first period or two against Seattle. I thought
that's a lot, man. I mean, a couple games against Vancouver, Edmonton. I mean, you're talking about top tier.
Yeah,
over there. So
yeah,
needed that win against Seattle. When we got to OT, I thought, man, at least we're gonna get a point out of this.
Exactly.
But got the win.
Ali Mata is trying to ruin the game for him.
I thought he could sit.
I mean, he hasn't played bad, but that penalty was terrible.
Real bad.
That was a bad penalty. Even if I thought maybe it was he kind of.
I mean, it's hard to tell, right? Because his arms were fully extended out.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, how hard did he really hit him, given that guy did mess his face up on the corner? Yeah. So if that was unintentional, man, he messed himself up pretty good.
Yeah, flopping into an actual injury.
Oh!
I'm just gonna draper myself.
Yeah.
So, all right, everyone. All right, everyone. That'll do it for this week's episode. Again, check out Adobo Boy, 5% off BD Sports Talk Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want a good laugh or something besides sports, check out our new weekly podcast, critically acclaimed Wake Up with the Sleeper Boys podcast, which is for now on our our channel here on BD Sports Talk Podcast. I think I'm going to actually switch that. I think it's going to get its own channel. So, but on Spotify as well, search for Wake Up on Spotify, search for BD Sports Talk Podcast. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Hope you all have an amazing week, and we will see you next time.
Sports Talk.